You're watching PEGRI TV, Rhode Island's public access channel.
Welcome everybody to the Four Corners, brought to you by the Official Wrestling Museum. We are your hosts. I am Angel. I'm joined by the Official Wrestling Museum's Hall of Famer, Lowlife. And we're here this week on the Four Corners talking about today's wrestlers. Who do we think could have made it in ECW? Now, we're talking about the actual real ECW, not the rebrand version of it. And these are our opinions. You guys may agree, you may not agree. Let us know, okay? That's the best part of the show. We like the interaction from you guys. Also, to just give you guys a head up, RI Comic-Con has tremendous amount of talent coming through that door, including wrestlers like the Nature Boy Ric Flair, the Hardy Boys, the Dudley Boys, Dr. Britt Baker, Lex Luger, DDP, Darby Allin, Kane, Mick Foley, Dustin Runnels, Francine, and you can even get David Arquette on your WCW World Title belt. We will be there with our cameras rolling to meet each and every one of you guys as well, too, walking around. And Terracon, they just added Rikishi. That's coming up at the end of this month, the last weekend. And I believe it's Springfield. I believe that's where we'll be heading up. We'll be out there signing autographs, walking around, taking pictures. Whatever you guys want to do, if you see us, see our camera, you guys want to jump on, that is awesome. We'll be there covering it. I believe we'll be there. I know it's a 3-day event. I know we're definitely there on Saturday, I believe, but we're going to find out if we're going to be able to make more days, which we're really hoping to do, because I think these type of events, you really want to try to spend as much time possible, because it's really a cool time.
What con is in Springfield?
Terracon.
Man, Springfield is such a hike.
That's okay. Hey, we were in Maine last week. We were in Bangor, Maine, Etna, Maine, Newport, and there was another town in Maine.
The rides up north are not as bad as the ride out west. Like going up to New Hampshire and Maine
was the other one. So we were driving around. We were there for a while last week. But yeah, we're gonna have a good time. Make sure you guys do that QR code for us. Help us spread more. Help us spread the word and sign up to get a National Pro Wrestling Day.
One time when at my job,
it's great to do.
This kid was like, "Hey, you don't want to mess with me? I'm from Springfield." And I was like, "What's that mean?" Tell the Simpsons I said hello. Like,
right?
Tried to tell me that because he was from Springfield, he was a tough
Nelson,
guy.
If his name was Nelson, you better back off. You never know.
I can't remember his name, but.
All right, well, let's jump into this right now, because this show we do have a lot of fun. And they kind of gave us a heads up on this. I think we found out on Saturday or something. This is the show the museum wanted us to do and talk about. So we had a couple of days to kind of think.
I didn't. I thought about it last night.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I kind of like to be like on the moment with this show, because, you know, unless if it's something, this show here, you could really put some thought into it. But some shows, it's like,
I like to go into the show kind of, because sometimes my picks change based on if you picked somebody that I might have picked. So.
Would you like to go first, or do you want me to go first? I went first last time, so it's up to you.
I'll go first.
Okay, don't pick my picks though.
So, my first pick, well, I think that,
and again, these are people that are today's wrestlers that we feel that will go with the original ECW.
I have like 5 names, so there's
one. We're going to do 4.
Well, I know. But there's one that I think you'll pick, so I'm going to save that one in case you want to pick them. Then I'll get my 4 in. I think that Pete Dunne would fit. Okay. I think, he's a shorter guy. ECW was a lot of shorter people, but his physicality, I think, would fit in with ECW. I think that he would be utilized as like this talent from England or wherever he's from, Ireland. I don't know where he's from. He's from one of those places. I think he'd be looked at as kind of like with world class, how they viewed Chris Adams as this English, because they tried to do that with British Bulldog's cousin Smith. I can't remember his name, but they never had they tried every now and then to have this like international talent.
Yep.
And I think that they would do that with Pete Dunne. I think his style definitely is a physical style, and I could definitely see him working out in ECW.
That's not a bad pick. He wasn't one of my picks that I was thinking of going with, but he would definitely fit. At least I agree with that. So my first pick, and I'm going to go with something obvious that people are going to say.
And this is probably who I...
Darby Allin.
Oh, well, I thought you would pick him. Yeah, I mean, definitely he'd be a guy, much like, when you were talking about who's going to be at RI Comic-Con, the Hardys. Definitely, Darby Allin would definitely be a guy who would work in ECW with his craziness.
And one thing that Heyman would talk about, the talent would talk about, is that Heyman was really for guys, I'll do whatever it took for the company to get it out there. So if you're thinking if these guys were who they were now, but just back then, a Darby Allin would really help skyline and get the word out and get people to want to tune in, because he's willing to do anything to his body. And I don't know how this guy's still walking, but I really don't. Speaking about a walk, upcoming free preview, we have the Epilepsy Foundation will be in the house, ladies and gentlemen, with us. Now, if you guys want to know any backgrounds on epilepsy, if you don't know about it, of course, you can always Google it. But we have 2 episodes for free preview on our YouTube channel, the story of, what you personally went through and, how it affected you as somebody looking in on the topic of it.
Yep.
So we got the foundation coming in. It's going to be very knowledgeable. You're going to find a lot more information. That will be starting at the beginning of October, so make sure you guys don't miss that.
Yeah, the free previews, we try to do a little more than just wrestling.
Yeah, we definitely do. But in the sense of walking, Darby Allin, I think, would definitely have been one.
Yeah, he could walk the walk in ECW.
Yep. I think I know who you're talking about. It's the other person.
Was he on your list?
So I was kind of thinking maybe you would bring him up too.
Okay.
So he was kind of going to be
I'm just going to say it, and then we'll see if it is.
All right.
All right, so I think that with the way this guy wrestles today, John Moxley.
Yep, that was the other guy.
I do think that he honestly would fit in. I know that some of the stuff he does is kind of cringe, like the skewers and the like. This guy bleeds in a 3-minute squash match. I think that it's too much, but I definitely think that he would have fit. I mean, when I used to be a fan of him back. This is before he became Dean Ambrose. He was doing like Dragon Gate, but he was in CZW doing stuff there. I think that had ECW not gone out of business, that he would have probably went there.
Yep.
So yeah, I think he probably would be my number 1 pick out of anyone. I just didn't want to pick him first because I wanted you to pick him. But yeah, I think Moxley would be in ECW.
Like I said, he was definitely somebody I thought of. I thought you were going to pick him. Easy shoe-in for that company. Could I see maybe him butting heads with Paul Heyman? And, if they were trying to do something to save something, possibly. I don't know if ECW has actually kind of ran that type of way. But I think it definitely would have been in the sense of very marketable. So I'm going to I'm trying to think how I have 2 names that I want to put out there. We'll go with this one first. Damian Priest.
Really?
Yeah. And I know people are going to be like, oh, wait, what? I think Damian Priest is just that character that people will link to. And there was some characters in ECW that maybe wasn't such the most hardcore guy or the most technical guy.
That's a misconception with ECW. That's why, like Pete Dunne.
Right.
Not necessarily hardcore, but his wrestling style is physical.
And I think Damian Priest would have fallen into that particular category, but would have been able to handle the hardcoreness because remember, at Backlash, when he took on Bad Bunny.
Yeah.
Bad Money.
Bad Bunny.
Right? When he definitely was able to do hardcore with that. And he has that wrestling abilities. He would have had that factor of that camera to attach to him to be able to keep the TV deal going. And I think he would have been utilized as one of the stars to keep TV going, but people probably would have been like, okay, but he's not ECW. He's not, oh my God, all the time. But I think he would have been that fit that Paul Heyman would have wanted for that TV purpose. And that's kind of like what Taz was.
But that's part of the selection is, you know, when a person hears, okay, people that could make it in the ECW, the majority of people are probably just going to think someone that could do hardcore matches, where they're not taking it like what you just thought. This is a guy Paul Heyman would probably utilize, which my next pick is going to be that, which I'm sure no one would think of. But it's not a pick that you would think of because you're like, when I say it, you're probably going to be like, really? But then when I explain why, you're, okay, I could see, because it would be something Paul Heyman would utilize. Yep. Paul Heyman was a genius with that, taking someone and, as they said, hide the negatives, accentuating the positives, put whatever that is their special talent or their special look or whatever, putting that to the forefront. And so your pick with Damian Priest, when I was kind of like, I don't know, because ECW, my thinking too was like, they never really had big guys either. Like,
they didn't have the big guys, you're right, but they had guys like, say, Chris Candido.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That he could do a little hardcore if he needed to here or there, but he had that wrestling ability. Right. He was somebody that people would still watch, but be like, wait a minute, is he really that hardcoreness that you think right with that name?
All right, so here's my...
I'm kind of scared about how you're going into this one.
Here's my off-the-wall,
oh no,
left field, whatever term, Jordan Grace.
Okay.
And right now, I know people might be going, what? And he's only saying that because he just recently saw... No, I mean, I know who she is. Here's why I am saying Jordan Grace. Now, number one, it's a woman. So already you're like, wait, a woman? Because ECW didn't really have women other than valets. They had Jazz, but really didn't have female wrestlers. But if you look at every time they did have a female that was a wrestler, they had Jazz, who was a muscular chick. The Prada Jet. She wasn't around too much, but there was a chick named the Prada Jet, another muscular chick. Reggie, I can't remember her last name, Benson, I think. Reggie, she had done work in Japan. She came over for a little bit. Reggie Bennett, I'm sorry.
Yep.
Reggie Bennett, another big chick. I could see Jordan Grace, or they used Nicole Bass a little bit. I could see Jordan Grace going over there, muscular, thick, and even doing stuff with the men, because remember, ECW would allow that, as opposed to like WWE. They wouldn't allow the intergender stuff. And with the way Jordan Grace looks, I could see Heyman falling in love with that. Like, she could be our China. You know, I could see that.
It's funny that you brought her up, because I did not think of her. And I thought you were going to go with somebody else, and that's who I was going to go with next. So I'm kind of glad
Are you still going to go with him?
I'm still going to go with the person.
So the one you're going to go with was who you thought I was going to say? Okay. But yeah, so what do you think about the Jordan Grace there?
So
it is off the wall, you know. So
it is. And when you said that, it was kind of thinking, one of my people I was going to say, maybe as an honorable mention would have been Rhea Ripley, because it gave exactly what you said to that. But once you said her, I'm like, oh my God, that's even better. So I'm going to name her as a
honorable mention.
Yeah. And I got another female that I'm contemplating if I want to do as an honorable mention or as my fourth pick, because I have another person that people be like, well, it's kind of off of what the topic of the show is. So my third pick is going to be Dirty Dom. And I'm going to tell you why. He is somebody that can honestly take a beating, okay? He is somebody that is small, like a Spike Dudley, okay? And even though he's come a long way, you know, when he did a show the other day, it was really kind of like he didn't want to be hit again. Like when he worked Damian Priest, it was like he was like, no. And he didn't want to take and that, I think, would have been phenomenal for ECW. Now you're going to say, well, it's a hardcore fed. You got to be hardcore. having somebody like him work guys like, say, a Sandman, an RVD, anybody that was that powerful, Balls Mahoney, Official Wrestling Museum Hall of Famer. We mentioned a couple of the Hall of Famers already. To have somebody like that work, it just makes it look so much better for camera because he's able to be like, no, and it just gets over really good. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought of Dom a little bit. The luchador, Heyman did have some luchadors there. How he plays the chicken blank heel. I can't say the word.
Yeah. Okay.
Chicken crap heel, I guess. Would he be hardcore? Not every guy had to be hardcore. Like, for example, Steve Corino, kind of, at first he wasn't that. He was just wrestling, and then did the whole hardcore.
I was just going to say,
into that. I could see Dom. I could see Dom being
just like
kind of like a Steve Corino-ish guy.
Now, I know he was king of hardcore. Correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't he king of old school?
Yeah, king of old school.
Because I
might have said the wrong thing. I'm sorry.
Well, no, I think he switched over at one time to hardcore for like something, but I think it was king of old school. So that, yeah.
But when he started out, I mean, his character was like, I'm going to have a traditional wrestler match. Then I think when he did his feud with Dusty Rhodes, helped make him. But I could see Dom being along the lines of that. So,
okay.
So my fourth pick, it might be early for a lot of people to understand it, but I think that now you have one of 38 of them to choose from.
One of 38.
The Samoans.
Hey.
I'm picking Jacob Fatu because I think his in-ring style, would match best for ECW. Solo is pure WWF style. The Usos, I think, are also. Yep. I could see the Usos going there, but I could see so much more. I think Jacob Fatu, his style, maybe his lifestyle, it more fits ECW than any.
I agree with you with him, and as the bloodline itself, I think it's a really good storyline that's being told. I think we're gonna. As long as they don't monopolize it with so many Samoans just coming off.
Well, there's more to come.
I know there's more to come, but as long as they do it smart and they utilize everybody, you know what I mean? Jacob Fatu, I think, is doing a phenomenal job. He's really, you could tell he is somebody that can easily take the place of Solo.
And you can clearly see they're gearing
back.
up. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
They're holding him back. You can see that
they are.
They're gearing up for Roman and
and I think you're going to see, maybe the bloodlines just explode and just having a huge family brawl at some point, which would be kind of interesting for like a Royal Rumble or even next year's War Game or something. If I was to say, I think Fatu was a great pick because I really think he could fit really well. And you got to remember how he was on the independent scene. Yeah. Like it really fits. Okay, so my last pick isn't going to be a wrestler. I'm going to cheat.
It's not cheating because they need mouthpieces and they need managers. And
I'm going to say Charles Robinson.
Okay.
And the reason for Charles Robinson, of all the referees right now, and yes, I know there's some referees that does it and stuff, but Charles Robinson, when he shows emotion, when something happens, you believe it 10 times more than
it's an interesting pick. I'll give you that.
There's, I'm going to butcher her name right now. I think it's Audrey. Is that her name?
Aubrey Edwards.
Aubrey, yeah. I knew I apologize for that. She sells everything. I love it. Great. There's a couple other workers that sell it.
Too much,
but that's the thing.
She puts the focus on her.
With Charles Robinson, it's so natural, and you just believe it. It honestly makes you feel like he's like, oh my God, like that. Ooh, he's feeling.
And the referees in ECW, I can't remember their names now off the top of my head, but the two of them, the two good ones. It's an interesting pick.
A referee is very important in a show. And I think for a hardcore company, you need the referee to feel it. Like I watch a lot of these, companies out there that call themselves wrestling and all they do is these death matches and stuff. And we talked about stuff like that before. And somebody goes through glass, they jump up in the air, and it's like, if I'm the referee in that match, yeah, I might back up like, oh my God, I want glass to go in my eyes, but I'm gonna turn my face. These guys are like, hey, and it just doesn't give the vibe. With Charles Robinson though, he gives that vibe, and it just makes you buy into that match. If you really watch the matches they put Charles Robinson in, and I'm not trying to sell his pick, I'm just trying to get the point of why it's so important for a referee to react right. He's in matches that there's going to be spots that need that extra reaction on what they're trying to drive home to the fans. Not so the commentators have to talk about it, because the commentator's job is to sell the story behind it.
The ones I don't like Aubrey Edwards, I feel puts sometimes too much on herself. And then the other guy, I can't remember his name for AEW, bald-headed dude. When guys are throwing punches and stuff, and he's sitting there and he's like, like he's getting punched. Mark Curtis used to do it in WCW, but Mark Curtis was Mark Curtis. That was him, and that stuck out then. And it wasn't, he did it in a way where he was like, doing all this, but he wasn't putting the shine on him. Yeah. He was doing it, but you weren't like, let me watch this match for the ref, not the, you know what I mean?
Totally.
And I feel like some of the people now do it for themselves. I want to mention a couple honorable mentions. Yeah. Even to this day, even if he's old, Samoa Joe clearly could have
I knew you were going to bring him out.
Yeah, I wanted to pick him, but I was like, no, let me go with Jacob Fort. But I was like, Samoa Joe was... now, this guy, I know he did technically retire. He is an agent now in WWF. But Abyss, I think, would have been a guy. Yeah. I know he, like I said, so that's why I didn't list Abyss. And I think also like Pentagon, I think would have been a guy that probably would have succeeded in ECW. There's a few other talents in TNA, but like a guy I was going to say, Rick O'Shea.
Rick O'Shea?
Yeah, Rick O'Shea.
All right.
I think Ricochet would have worked. Not so much. I don't think Ospreay would have worked as much. For some reason, I think Ricochet is more built for ECW than an Ospreay.
Yeah. I'm going to go a couple honorable mentions. Chris Statlander, I think would have been another good female worker in there. I've seen her take a really good beating in matches.
Willow, I mean, if you're gonna the two, I think for women, I think that more of the AEW women probably would be a better fit.
Also, here's an odd name, that Joe Hadley guy.
Joe Henry?
Yeah.
Joe Henry.
Henry. What did I say, Henry?
You said Hatley, I don't know.
I'm tired,
I guess you don't believe in him.
No, I actually do. And that's the reason why I said...
But they did have some characters like that,
think he would do so well, because think about it, if he comes out and he's doing that, and somebody like Balls Mahoney comes out and right over the head, you're going to be into it.
Yeah, that's what some of those characters were, you know?
So we need to come up with our final four
of
our 8. So...
I think Moxley is a given, you know.
I think we'll definitely have to go with Moxley for sure. Okay, and I think we have to definitely throw in Darby Allin. You know what I mean? So, if we were to not talk about our own individual list, because we did that last week, and I think that kind of helped some because it takes our thoughts out and only focuses on the other. Of the 3 names that's remaining, Jacob Fatu, Jordan Grace, and Pete Dunne, very hard to pick. I would probably lean a little more, if anything, to Pete Dunne, because I feel that...
Really? I would have probably said Fatu out of the 3 of them.
Well, I would, and we could still do Fatu. I'm not saying, we can't.
They also had the Samoan Gangsta Party in ECW.
Right. I'm just trying to think... on a wide band, if we were to book the show, characters of the main guys you heard of ECW.
Well, what about on your side? Is there anyone that you would see over them, or who was yours again? Darby Allin.
Darby Allin, which is already one. Yeah. Damian Priest, Dominic Mysterio, Charles Robinson.
Out of those picks, my favorite one is the Charles Robinson one.
I would say Charles Robinson.
I like that
too,
pick because I would never have thought of a
So we'll toss Charles in. He's a great guy, too. He really is.
How's the signing?
Really good.
All right.
Actually,
again,
just fun fact, if you Google Charles Robinson's like autographs or signatures, you're going to see him signing a table, and that's in the museum. Anywho, just for a little
for my
laugh
own picks now, like if you were to ask me, I would pick out of the three, I would pick Fatu, but
now would you pick? Okay, so let me ask this question.
I just think his grittiness and I mean him and Pete Dunne very similar in the pick of Pete Dunne's style. I just think that if Paul Heyman had the choice, he would go with Fatu because of his
Paul
own
Heyman, absolutely.
because of his own history with the Samoan family. I think that he would take both, but I think
so. Let's say this.
I think he could do more with
So
Fatu.
let's say Paul Heyman's doing a show. You have all the original ECW guys, like the main guys that just randomly pop in your head for ECW, right? And they're like, okay, you have a chance. You could put one of these three people on the show tonight. Do something for me. Now, are you saying Fatu?
I think he's still going to go with Fatu because he's. If you were going to say it in that way,
yep.
I think he's.
But is it to fit the image of what ECW is, or to say, okay, well, you know what? I really need somebody to work, say, Taz tonight, or Shane Douglas tonight, or Chris Candido tonight. You know what? If I pull in Pete Dunne, it's going to give them a little bit different. They can still do their intensity, but it's a little different.
I think I think both of them answer that question.
Yeah,
I think
it's
Fatu
tough,
fits
right?
the image more, but I think Pete Dunne would be the guy to pick if you were going to have more Candido or Taz. But I think that Fatu could, and I think that if you were going to go on stature, even though Pete Dunne's one of my favorite guys, but I think Fatu already is.
So you know what?
Eclipsed him.
Because we're down to two, we'll go with Fatu because, in all honesty, he does.
You got to have a Samoan.
Yeah, and he really does fit the mold. It was just that good argument, but that discussion of what do you do when
well,
you
could always bump out Charles Robinson and put Pete Dunne in.
We need somebody to count to three. No. So we have John Moxley, Darby Allin, Charles Robinson, Jacob Fatu of today's wrestlers, even though Charles is not a wrestler, folks, who could fit in ECW. Let us know what you think. Let us know out of the 8 names we dropped today, would you have picked a different combination, or even some of our honorable mentions? Or if you would have picked somebody totally different. Let us know right in. We'll read them up on the shows. I know we said last week we were going to start reading them starting this week. We just, unfortunately, that binder didn't come with us on this week's show. We do apologize. We will get them out for you next week. Take that QR code, scan it with your phone. Help us make a National Pro Wrestling Day totally free to do. It takes 10 seconds of your time. And, we thank you guys so much for tuning in. Trunk or Treats, we're going to have a whole list on our social media. Check out our YouTube page for all our different contents of past shows and down the aisles and so much more. And just follow us on social media because we're going to be posting up some really cool pictures just for fans to say, hey, that's cool. And you know what they say.
That was a lot. That was a lot of what they say. But
that was an awful lot of what they say.
Come back next week and see what's in the corners.
Thank you, guys.